welcome to another video, A Walk with Phil, and I'm here in West Bromwich. I'm actually in Hill Top, and today I want to show you where once stood a very old factory. It was called the HILL TOP FOUNDRY, and it was just off Hill Top. What I want to do is just to have a look around where the HILL TOP FOUNDRY once stood and see if there are any reminders of what used to be there. It also what I'm going to try and do is try and find out where the old streets used to be around the back of the HILL TOP FOUNDRY, such as Queen Street and Hill Street, and more importantly Hawkes Lane. Hawkes Lane was a very, very prosperous, bustling, busy lane with pubs and shops, all sorts of activities down that particular lane. What I want to do is to try and find out what's left of that lane as well, so let's go and see what we can find. So what became of HILL TOP FOUNDRY? A foundry that had been standing in Hill Top since 1799, when it was built by a certain Mr. Elwell, a famous industrialist of these parts, especially in Wednesbury. I'll show you the best I can where the foundry once stood here in Hill Top. Now, where I'm going to take you, of course, is quite a large sprawling estate these days, and it's going to be very difficult to actually pinpoint anything with any reasonable accuracy. But we're going to start here at the top of what was known as Castle Street. But before we go down Castle Street, just show you the old police station and the Hill Top Library there. That's been there since late 1800s. And just beyond there would be the park, Hill Top Park. And what we have here is the Dovecote pub, but when it was first there was a pub there called the Three Crowns, but that was demolished to make way for the Flash Harry that was built here in 1971. It became the Hillcrest in 1979, and of course now you can see it's now the Dovecote. Been there since 1991. Down there we've got the Holloway Bank. We'll take you into Wednesbury Town. St James's Church over there, not the original church. Quite a much larger church has stood there. Got demolished many years ago, I think due to subsidence. But anyway, we're here at Castle Street, and this is where I'm going to show you where the HILL TOP FOUNDRY once stood. A very old foundry, of course. It was built on land just here to my left in 1799, and apparently they purchased another foundry in Wednesbury called the Anchor Works in 1934. I think the frontage of that factory is actually displayed at the Black Country Museum. But yeah, you can see, just pan you around again just to show you that this was the entrance to Castle Street, but as you can see it's all sealed up at the end now, and here this is where Castle Street would continue, and this is Lee Street just here to my right. Already we've seen signs of the foundry. Well, we would have done back in the day. Look, it would have been all along there. The factory, the works would have been there to my left. Castle Street would continue and join Tunnel Road at the bottom, and it would be here now that you'd be seeing signs of the HILL TOP FOUNDRY here on the left. And just ahead of me now we've got a new kind of road called Melbourne Close. But I'll pass Melbourne Close and I'll just continue a little bit further along Castle Street, and it would be here. Now I'm going to sight a pub here called the Bird in Hand, probably closed in the 60s, but there used to be a pub there, I believe, called the Bird in Hand, just on the corner of Castle Street there. To my right here is Pleasant Street. Now if you live down Pleasant Street, can you tell me if it's pleasant? It looks alright. it slopes downwards, look, and you can see on the horizon, look, a lot of other old factories just over there. And of course all this area was once old terrace properties, and you can see now there's a lot of 80s, 90s properties now. Now we've got Tunnel Road. Now Tunnel Road will, if you go to the left, will take you to Arville's. And it's all fenced off ahead of me, because beyond there it is the Metro line, which was once the Great Western Railway. And it's called Tunnel Road because beyond this fence there is a tunnel, but the trains, or now the Metro, now emerges. Now I'm also sighting another pub here, and maybe have to be corrected, but it was around here, was the Railway Tavern. But of course, I'm not sure how old this house is, but you know, it looks like a 30s, 40s, and if there was a pub there, it must have been gone a long time ago. Anyway, I'm going to go back on myself, and what we're going to do now is going to try and find out where Queen Street was. Now that's going to be a job and a half, I think, because as I've said, the old area is now completely changed from what it once was when the HILL Top Foundry stood, just up here on the right. The foundry itself was enclosed by, shall we say, Castle Street, Queen Street and Hawkes Lane. I'll show you a bit of Hawkes Lane as well. Hawkes Lane is just completely decimated. There's nothing left of it to speak of. And it was a very once thriving lane. It was a through cut through down to Harville's Hawthorne Way. But show you that in a bit. But now we're on Melbourne Close. Now this is a newly created road, but this was Queen Street. Yeah, this is where you would turn into Queen Street. This part is original Queen Street. Now Queen Street will continue in its way. Where that white garage is, you can see, and the houses, that would where Queen Street would have continued. We're going to have to make a bit of a detour to try and pick up Queen Street somewhere else. Seems a fairly quiet estate round here. But as we come to the end of this road, you can see where the road has now been abruptly ended, and is now forcing you to take the route that way. Queen Street would have gone through here, through this drive. Now we've got Sydney Close up there. Bit of an Australia feel. Melbourne and Sydney. This is all newly created because this site here was the HILL Top Foundry. All around here. Up here and here as well. Mainly this side in the middle would have been the foundry, but as I say, it's always a little difficult to actually pinpoint it. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go up Melbourne Close and see if we can pick up Queen Street just a bit further up here. So you can see Melbourne Close now is a newly created estate, created in the mid 80s, late 80s, and it seems pleasant enough what they've done with the area. It's quiet, it's a pleasant area. There's an open space here. Well, what we're trying to find now is where Queen Street is, as I've said. We're still walking on the areas of where the foundry was. In fact, I would say that now I'm walking on people's back gardens now, because so many houses, terrace properties that used to be surrounding the main industrial area of this town. There were so many houses that would line Queen Street, and beyond on the back of the gardens would all be the HILL TOP Foundry. But now here we have Queen Street, which would have been Queen Street obviously, now reduced to a small alley. Let's take you down here and show you where we are when we get down here. There you go, look, see? Might be better if I walk over here and show you. There you can see ahead where the white garage is, that's where Queen Street would have come. And if I just show you around here now, this is where the road now ends. Queen Street would have continued through those garages. Getting Queen Street, as you can see. If you continue to the bottom, you can see where the Queen Street abruptly ends here also, as the road will continue through these garages. Now here ahead of me, beyond all these garages here, would have been the HILL TOP Foundry. All along at the rear of all these houses, all terraced houses all along here, and beyond the terraced houses would have been the HILL TOP Foundry. As you see, would have gone through those garages. And as I've said, lots of terraced housing to my left and to my right as we emerge from this now alleyway. Would have all been along here and all along here as well. Would have all terrace properties to my left and to my right, all there. Now where we going to end up is Hawkes Lane. Now I'm going to take you to the entry point to Hawkes Lane, just up here. I'm walking towards Hawkes Lane now, but this is not the original road where I am now. All this would have been the foundry, all here on this grass where all these trees are. And we can see, just show you all these very fancy semi-detached properties that have now run alongside a newly created avenue called Adelaide Avenue. Now let's take you down to the beginnings of Hawkes Lane. Now when we talk about demolishing areas for new houses, Hawkes Lane is one of those lanes that has suffered more than most. But before I take you up there, just show you this is HILL TOP. There's all the row of shops that we've got running over that side. They're all new now, except for Humphrey Lugs. It's still one of the old original buildings still standing along here. But it is Hawkes Lane. You can see now it says it's a no-through road. It will take you to Harville's Hawthorne, and there was shops along here. And when you talk of Hawkes Lane, when you touch shops, chip shops, pubs, all manner of things and buildings down here, you'd be shocked to see how much it's changed. It changed to that extent that Hawkes Lane practically doesn't exist. And now here is the Hen and Chickens, now called the new Hen and Chickens because it's now bar and grill. Well, there is nothing I can see of an address for anything here in Hawkes Lane, excepting maybe this is called the Hawkes Lane car park. I'm not sure if there's anything along here that uses Hawkes Lane as an address now, because as you can see it curves off to the left. Maybe Maybe there's a property just here through these gates that might use the Hawkes Lane address. I don't know, it looks like it's apartments through there. But look, here we go then. So we're walking along Hawkes Lane and we've hit a hedgerow. So we cannot proceed along the correct path of Hawkes Lane now, so we'll have to use this parallel path. But Hawkes Lane would go through all these houses here as it skirts along the foundry. I'm walking probably on the foundry premises now. Absolutely nothing left now to suggest what once stood here on this site. It's amazing what they can do, how they can obliterate practically every sign of once was. Now we are now going to continue along Queen Street to meet up with Hawkes Lane. You just pan you around again, look. This where Queen Street would have come from, over that way, and all this grassy area here would have been Queen Street. Queen Street has been abruptly closed off, look. There's the curb line, and so you can't go any further. And now this is what remains of Hawkes Lane, but this isn't called Hawkes Lane anymore. This is called Adelaide Avenue. Hawkes Lane would have come from over in that direction, through those very new houses there, and you can see it's all blocked off with garages at the top now. And you can also see that Hawkes Lane would have carried on to join up with a new road and a club down there, which we'll see if we can find traces of in a bit. As far as I'm aware, it's a newly created road, this particular section. But Hawkes Lane had, I believe, I could be wrong, I'll just show you that's now Adelaide Avenue. I do believe it had 3 pubs along there. After the Hen and Chickens, there was a couple of pubs. I'm just not aware of the names, but there was certainly the British Oak. There's Norbury Road just there. This is a very busy new road that will take you into HILL Top, and there's the British Oak that used to stand towards the bottom end of Hawkes Lane, and there was a Price's Fish and Chip shop that was next to the British Oak. I've no idea when they got demolished. I'm standing on the junction of Tunnel Road here, and there's a tunnel that just runs more or less under my feet, a metro tunnel that will take you over in that direction. And it would have been just ahead of me where this house is here. There used to be a club. I think it was the Ponderosa. I'm not sure, but I'm citing the club there. I could be wrong, but I'm just going to show you now another bit of section of Hawkes Lane that still remains. There's Tunnel Road ahead, and this is Hawkes Lane just here, and it ends abruptly at the bottom, so you can't go any further. There was a pub just there in the corner. I think it was Samson and Lion. There's now a couple of shops now. But here would have been Hawkes Lane. Now he would have carried on through these houses here. And the nearest we can find to the actual road of Hawkes Lane now would be to walk along this alleyway that would have run. This is walking man parallel really to Hawkes Lane. But I just want to show you another road that now no longer exists. But as you can see, look, there is Hawkes Lane here. As you can see, there's Hawkes Lane. It would have turned in this direction and we'd have had Hill Street just ahead of us here. Now all we've got now is a bit of an alleyway. There would have been a pub. Where would that pub be? Now I'm going to cite another pub here. It could be wrong, but I just say that here there used to be a pub here called the White Swan, where this white garage is. The White Swan, around about there. Right, we're going along what would have been more or less Hill Street. Now Hill Street was not a particularly long road, but here to my right here, where all these new properties are, these would all be terraced houses, and similarly where all these fences here, that would have been just beyond there a lot of terraced properties, and there'd be about halfway down Vine Street, about halfway down Hill Street. It could be here just at the end of this path. It was round about there. I'm citing another pub there called the Vine. It could be further down, but Hill Street, as I said, was not a particularly long road. We would have all these terrace properties running along here and Hill Street would finish just beyond these new houses here. That's the end of our walk around the Hilltop estate, where once stood Hilltop Foundry. There is nothing left at all of the foundry itself. I didn't expect it to be, actually. And so what we left now is a lot of 80s, 90s housing estate with lots of new semi-detached houses, replacing all those old terrace houses that used to run alongside Castle Street and Queen Street, and of course Hawkes Lane also. There's hardly anything whatsoever left of the social life that used to exist along Hawkes Lane now. It's all gone. There's nothing left to suggest what used to be there anymore. So anyway, we'll leave it at that, and if you like the video, hit the like button and also hit subscribe and hit the notification bell for new videos, and I'll see you on the next one.